I'm Peggy Pico. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, two local high school football coaches are in a controversial situation over their costume choice.
A small cut in food stamp benefits could have a big impact on San Diego families. I'm Amitha Sharma. We'll look at what happens when federal stimulus funds run out. And later, November gets a new name, Mo-vember. It's a mustache movement, all to raise money and awareness of men's health issues.
And an FBI forensic lab in San Diego goes international. We'll look at how it will help local law enforcement and prosecutions. And virtual reality enters the 21st century. There's more to it than video games. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Dwayne Brown is off tonight. San Diego Unified says they'll investigate a controversial photo of two football coaches from Sarah High School. This picture was taken last weekend at San Diego State University's sport event. The men were dressed as Jamaican bobsled team, and they were in blackface. Some parents were outraged when the photo went on Facebook. San Diego Unified School Board President John Lee Evans says teachers are held to a very high standard of conduct.
We certainly don't expect that conduct is only going to happen inside the classroom. Our staff are members of the community. They're highly respected members of the community, so we have a very high expectation of them.
The photos have been removed from Facebook, but some parents and the local chapter of the NAACP say the coaches should also go away too. The San Diego City Council postponed a vote on a beach ban at the La Jolla Children's Pool. The proposal aims to keep people off the beach during pupping season, but today city staff asked for a delay because of an issue with the Coastal Commission. It could take until January before the proposal is back on the council's docket. For now, a rope remains in place to keep people away from the seals. There's a settlement tonight with two marijuana dispensaries in Pacific Beach. They're shutting down and paying about $8,000 in penalties and investigative costs so they can avoid paying nearly twice that much in fines for zoning law violations. City Attorney Jan Goldsmith signed off on the agreement. He says San Diego needs a reasonable zoning law for dispensaries. Early voting to elect San Diego's next mayor began just over a week ago. Joe Uriarty with KPBS media partner iNewsSource joins us with more on how the turnout's shaping up. Joe, what has the turnout been like so far?
Since last Monday, more than 50,000 early ballots have been cast. That's out of about 360,000 that were sent out. The County Registrar of Voters says that's a pretty good turnout for the early days of a special election, a rate of just over 14%.
Do we have an idea of who's voting early?
Well, we have an idea of where they live. Among the voters most excited to cast early ballots were those in Rancho Bernardo. Some precincts up there were recording turnout rates near 35%. Meanwhile, some precincts in and around UC San Diego have yet to record a single vote cast.
And November 12th is the last day to request a vote by mail, right?
That's right. And those wishing to vote by mail have until polls close on Election Day, November 19th, to get their ballots to the Registrar of Voters. We've got an interactive map of who's been voting online at kpbs.org/election.
All right, iNewsSource reporter Joe Uriarty, thanks. San Diego County's food stamp recipients are bracing for cuts coming to the program, slated for the end of the week. The temporary funds were added in 2009 as part of the economic stimulus package. Amitha Sharma takes a look at how losing these funds will affect San Diegans and the region.
The latest census data reveals that the economic recovery hasn't reached most families in San Diego County. The number of people living in poverty continues to grow, hitting children the hardest. And more than 1/3 of the county's residents are living in economic hardship. It's against this backdrop that food stamp benefits are about to decrease for 270,000 people across the county. Joining me are Peter Brownell of the Center on Policy Initiatives and Jennifer Tracy, Executive Director of the San Diego Hunger Coalition. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Anita.
Jennifer, let's start with you. The federal government boosted food stamp benefits back in 2009 as part of a stimulus package during the recession. A portion of that increase is about to come to an end. Break down the food stamp decrease for us. What does it amount to for a family of 4?
For a family of 3, I know that it's about 16 meals that they're going to lose each month. And so for families who already are struggling to get through the month with their food stamp or their SNAP benefits, this is going to be a significant impact for them. And again, most of the families who participate are families with children, and so they're the ones that are really going to be impacted.
So what's the situation now, even before the cut? Are most families who receive these benefits each month able to survive on these benefits? Are the benefits enough as they stand right now?
It's really difficult for people to have the benefits last the entire month, and a lot of people end up having to make difficult choices about how much healthy food they can purchase. Produce is sometimes more expensive than processed foods, and so it impacts their health, it impacts stress levels. Anyone who's participated in the CalFresh Challenge, trying to live on a CalFresh or a SNAP budget for the week, can attest to how difficult it is to make sure that you're not only getting healthy food, but that you have enough to eat.
And Peter, what effect is the decrease on these food stamp benefits going to have on the local economy?
Well, I mean, basically sort of my back of the envelope calculation in terms of the loss of federal dollars coming into the region are in the neighborhood of $29 million that go out to these families that really need the benefits, and then those folks turn right around and, these are, they're not dollars that get put in savings accounts. These are, credits that they have to spend on food, so they turn around and spend those benefits in the local grocery store. So it's benefits these families, but then it benefits the local economy as they spend that money locally, right? Because they're not going to go shop online to buy their groceries, right? They're going to turn around and buy them here in San Diego County.
And many of the people who receive these benefits are actually working, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So of the households, based on the American Community Survey data, of the households receiving food stamps, about 77% have at least one family member that are working. So I mean, these are people that are working. They're just not earning enough to really raise their families out of poverty and meet all their needs. So they've really, have to rely on these benefits to meet their basic needs.
Okay, switching gears slightly, new census data shows that the economic recovery hasn't quite reached San Diego County. Tell me what the new data shows and why hasn't it reached this region?
Sure. So, I mean, we do an annual poverty report. It's available on our website, onlinecpi.org, and that profiles the new data that comes available every year from the American Community Survey. And we especially highlight poverty and income figures. And so what we found this year is that overall there was no significant change in the poverty level in the county. So it's, before the recession in 2011, it was about 11%. And over the last couple of years, it's held steady at around 15%. For children, it was about 15% prior to the recession in 2007. It's almost 20% now. It's 19.8%. And it's not, if anything, the child poverty rate's getting slightly worse. So, the recession, the recovery, so to speak, has kind of, the stock market's recovered, real estate prices have recovered. But for those that are most vulnerable, there's really no recovery in San Diego, and this really mirrors what's happening at the national level. So,
but why is that?
Why is that? I mean, I think it's a couple of factors. I mean, I think it's one. I mean, right now we're facing some particular challenges in San Diego. I think. I mean, we've sort of pulled back the reins on spending, and a lot of that spending is spending that stimulates the economy in ways that would benefit low-wage workers. So we've lost. The sequester, and then now this on top of it really have can have a real impact on San Diego's low-wage workforce and their families.
Okay, and Jennifer, very quickly, what evidence are you seeing at the Hunger Coalition of this lack of economic recovery?
We continue to see a lot of people who need assistance, and although the growth in the food stamp or the SNAP program has slowed to about 5% per year, there's still about half of the people who are eligible and in need who don't participate in the program. So we could continue to see growth, but it's because there's still so many people who, again, aren't feeling the effects of the recovery.
Okay, and for those people who want more information on this, they can go to our website. Jennifer, Peter, thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
The federal courthouse and a few surrounding buildings downtown were evacuated today because of a bomb threat. The San Diego Fire Department says a transient made comments to a courthouse guard about having an explosive device. No bomb was found, and the transient who made the comment was sent to a county psychiatric hospital. The FBI's San Diego Regional Computer Forensic Lab received international accreditation from the American Society of Crime Laboratory Directors Accreditation Board. A celebration of the prestigious status change was held at the FBI's field office in Sorrento Valley. Police chiefs from around the county joined other law enforcement officials and FBI agents at the Regional Computer Forensic Lab, or RCFL, ceremony earlier today.
So today, we celebrate the RCFL's accreditation as one of the 48 forensic laboratories in the world to have attained international program accreditation in the digital and multimedia evidence discipline.
The site's forensic lab began in 1998 and was accredited nationally in 2008 and is now a model for 15 other digital forensic labs throughout the U.S. San Diego Police Chief William Lansdowne says the high-tech digital work helps local police.
I'm happy because it's where we take our cases in cybercrime. They do the research, the forensic background work for us to be able to prevent people from being victims and to prosecute those who commit crimes.
Among other cases, the FBI says the lab's high-tech ability to extract digital evidence helped investigators in the 2008 federal courthouse bombing in San Diego. And U.S. Attorney Laura Duffy says the lab is a critical component in prosecution.
To be able to present evidence that you've extracted, whether it be from laptops, from computers, from the cloud, from internets, from Facebook accounts, all that kind of stuff, and to be able to put it on in a way that it's in its original evidence state, that it hasn't been altered because of the extraction or because of the examination, analysis, and manipulation of it, it is extremely valuable.
Valuable in San Diego and now throughout the world. San Diego's FBI Regional Computer Forensic Lab completed more than 750 digital examinations last year. Former San Diego Charger Lance Allworth received some good news today. His stolen 1971 Super Bowl ring has been recovered. Authorities say the ring was found at an auction house in Laguna Niguel 25 years after it was stolen from a restaurant in Mission Valley. Allworth got a call demanding money for the ring, which launched an investigation. Allworth says he's very grateful that he has the ring back.
Well, I really appreciate this ring more than you'll ever know. It's pretty special, and I thought I'd never see it again, and here it is. Thank you.
Bidding on the ring was expected to open at $44,000. The Sheriff's Department says no arrests have been made, but the investigation is ongoing. The Blue Angels have put the Miramar Air Show on their 2014 calendar, but base officials aren't ready to say the show will go on as scheduled. They say they're waiting on details before confirming the air show, explaining they had to make thousands of dollars in reimbursements to vendors. They had to pay that to vendors, rather, and performers because of the 2013 show being canceled by the partial government shutdown earlier this month. Mustaches are making a comeback, and it's all for a good cause. Amitha Sharma explains.
Come November 1st, you might notice many more men growing mustaches. It's part of a fundraising and education campaign for men's health. The focus is on male-specific cancers and mental health issues. I'm joined by UC San Diego Chief Urologist, Dr. Christopher Kane. Dr. Kane, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Amitha.
So tell me, how many men are affected by prostate cancer?
Well, this year in the United States, we'll have over 200,000 men diagnosed with prostate cancer, and sadly about 30,000 men, 30 to 32,000 men, will die from prostate cancer. So those are, intense statistics. When you think about the incidence, about 1 out of 6 American men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetime. So it's quite remarkable. Think about being at a Charger game or a Padre game. 1 out of 6 men stand up. That's the prevalence of prostate cancer. So it's extremely common. Fortunately, among the men diagnosed, a relatively small proportion are at risk of death from prostate cancer untreated. But it really is about screening, detecting, and then treating those men who are at highest risk.
So let's talk about that. What is the screening process for men?
The screening is a simple blood test called a PSA, prostate-specific antigen test, and usually a digital rectal exam, which is just a part of the physical exam. And there's been a little bit of controversy about PSA testing because PSA stands for prostate-specific antigen. It's actually not cancer-specific, so many men who have elevated PSAs may have elevated PSAs because their prostate's larger, they have an infection or some other reason. So it's not a perfect screening test, and therefore it's been criticized. On the other hand, most men with prostate cancer do have an elevated PSA. So it's what we call a fairly sensitive screening test. So those of us who are PSA screening proponents, and I'm certainly in that camp, believe that it's well worthwhile getting screened, having prostate cancer detected, and then if the prostate cancer is a slow-growing cancer that may not need to be treated, making that decision after detection rather than avoiding screening and detection altogether.
Very quickly, who's at risk for developing prostate cancer?
Well, all men are at risk, and the current American Urologic Association screening guidelines say to start screening at 55, but African American men and men with a positive family history, so a father, brother, uncle with prostate cancer, are at particularly high risk. So they may want to speak to their physician about getting screened even earlier than 55.
Let's talk about testicular cancer. I understand that that particular cancer tends to affect younger men. Why?
Yes. Well, I don't know why. We don't fully understand why, but the average age, there's actually a bimodal distribution. There's 2 different ages where it occurs, in the late teens and then in the 30s. So it really is a disease of younger men. It's actually one of the real success stories in cancer treatment because it's one of the most treatable cancers. Even when men have advanced testicular cancer, they're often still curable because chemotherapy is so effective against testicular cancer. It's also one of the easiest cancers to screen for because it's really just a self-examination that we encourage men to do once they're teenagers and older. And if they're suspicious, they should see their primary care physician and usually get referred to a urologist for an ultrasound and exam. But as Lance Armstrong showed us, that even men who have very high-risk testicular cancer can be successfully treated and long-lived.
Now, despite this talk of cancer, heart disease remains the #1 killer, not just for men, but for women as well, right?
Yes, it is. And the heart disease statistics are intimidating, but it's the #1 cause of death. Now, as we're living older and we're doing a better job successfully treating many cancers, heart disease goes up in incidence. So it's also associated with our increasing obesity, hypertension, family history, cholesterol management. So unfortunately, although our treatments for heart disease are more effective than ever, things like statin medications to lower cholesterol, blood pressure medications to manage that, unfortunately the epidemic of obesity and the decreasing exercise of our American society is putting people at higher risk.
Very quickly, the point of Mo-vember is not just to raise awareness about specific cancers for men, but also mental health issues. Do men tend to ignore the signs of, say, depression?
Yes, I think men and women tend to ignore the signs of depression and just assume their life is busy and they're under stress. And men seem to be particularly reluctant to go in for regular medical examinations. And so I think it's really an important movement to think about screening our mental health for ourselves with a primary care physician, for our family members and those who we love, because many of us are suffering in silence.
Dr. Christopher Kane, thanks for coming on the program.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I'm Gwen Eichel on the next News Hour, a report from the Netherlands on how to cope with rising sea levels and extreme weather. That's Tuesday on the PBS News Hour.
Longtime video gamers might remember back to the last time virtual reality was the next big thing. Big, clunky helmets promised to transport players into a rich new world of immersive gaming. But the technology hadn't caught up with the hype, and those headsets went the way of Pogs and Beanie Babies. But now virtual reality is back, and it's not just for gamers. KPBS technology reporter David Wagner takes us on a tour through this second stab at the new virtual world.
Hidden beneath the world we know. Remember when cyberspace was the place? Back when Hollywood channeled their obsession with virtual reality into movies like Hackers and The Matrix? Well, one person who remembers is San Diego indie video game developer E. McNeil.
I kind of laugh at the movies that I have seen now and how they represent like what hacking is, where, I don't know, you wave a hand and you've broken through the security or something.
These visions of hacking your way through virtual reality might seem like a 90s throwback, but in hardcore gaming circles, they're coming back in a big way. That's thanks to the Oculus Rift, a virtual reality headset attracting lots of excitement. McNeil made a cyberpunk hacking game for it called CS.
You're like in the system and you're zooming from node to node trying to hack stuff and capture the classified data, presumably for money.
His game won first place in a competition put on by the Irvine-based company that makes the headset, and I got to play it.
Welcome to cyberspace.
I entered this 3D virtual space by strapping the Oculus Rift over my head, shutting out the world around me. I positioned its two eyeball-sized screens right in front of my face. And when I moved my head around, my first-person viewpoint moved too, making me feel like I was actually inside this cyberpunk world. McNeil says he and other developers see the Oculus Rift as the headset that will finally make good on the promise of virtual reality gaming. There were many high-profile failures back in the 90s, including Nintendo's Virtual Boy. It had crude graphics drawn only in red and was notorious for making players nauseous.
Yeah, this is a step above the Virtual Boy, I can tell you that.
Virtual reality may have gone out of fashion in gaming, but look elsewhere and you'll see it never really went away. Let's take a trip to Dr. Robert McClay's clinic at the San Diego Naval Medical Center.
We're using virtual reality to help treat post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a condition that is not uncommon in folks who've come back from combat.
Dr. McClay uses a kind of exposure therapy with veterans. The idea is to help them deal with their trauma by gradually exposing them to what caused it. Of course, Dr. McClay can't send his patients back into Middle East combat, so he uses a virtual reality headset to simulate Iraq and Afghanistan.
So let's set the trauma now to severe, and we'll blow up his car.
Plugged into this virtual therapy, I could see how it would trigger a traumatic memory, but I could also see that the graphics circa 2005 are getting kind of outdated. Dr. McClay hopes that all the advancements being made in video games will trickle down to clinics soon, just as they have in the past.
If we had to build it up from the ground without the video game industry already working on these issues, it wouldn't have been possible.
UC San Diego's Dr. Eric Vieri agrees.
Without the gaming world, we wouldn't be where we are.
His research showed that virtual reality could treat people with inner ear disorders that disturbed their sense of motion.
They can't keep up with the world. So the beauty of virtual reality is that I create the world and I can make it move the way I want.
Basically, virtual reality can overcorrect for someone's balance issues in real reality. Now, Dr. Vieri hopes newer, cheaper headsets could find new applications for other diseases.
If we build a cognitive prosthesis for somebody with Alzheimer's disease, but it costs $100,000, that'll never work. But if we can use the $500 game systems, now we're talking about something that could make a huge difference in people's lives.
For now, the Oculus Rift is only available to game developers. Oculus hopes to ship the headset for consumers sometime next year. David Wagner, KPBS News.
Warmer temperatures in the county for the rest of the week. The coast will see sunny skies with temperatures in the 70s by Thursday. The inland valleys will see similar weather with temperatures approaching 80 by the weekend and cooler temperatures in the mountains in the 50s and 60s. But there will be plenty of sunshine, and the desert will also be sunny with temperatures in the 70s and 80s. Recapping tonight's top stories, San Diego Unified School District says they'll investigate a controversial photo of two Sarah High School coaches. The coaches were in costume as the Jamaican bobsled team wearing blackface. Some parents say the coaches should be fired. And there's a delay on a city council vote over the beach ban at the La Jolla Children's Pool because of an issue with the Coastal Commission. The ban would keep people off the beach during harbor seal pupping season. And the county register of voters says the turnout is fairly high so far in early voting in the San Diego mayor's race. About 50,000 vote by mail ballots already returned out of about 360,000 requested. There's a mayoral campaign ad making the rounds that it's in the Halloween spirit, with zombies trying to scare people out of voting for Nathan Fletcher.
See, the problem with Nathan Fletcher is that he just kind of stumbles from one position to the next.
And we know stumbling.
The ad was paid for by a group calling itself Zombies for Responsible Government. And the LA Times reports a conservative activist produced the spot. Now zombies may be allowed to make commercials. But as far as we can find out, the undead are not actually eligible to vote. You can find tonight's stories and download the KPBS app all on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us and have a great evening.